All right, now we're good.
Okay. This is a special meeting of the Estes Park Housing Authority. The agenda is, I think the agenda is available. It's going to be a relatively short meeting. The agenda calls for a 30-minute executive session. I don't think we'll be in executive session much longer than about 5 or 10 minutes. As there is confidential information that needs to be passed along to the board. Are there any public comments?
Thank you. I made it as short as I physically could. I understand everyone. I respect your time. Hi, my name is Susan Whiteneck. I am a resident at Fall River Village, 298 Sweet Sage Lane. I am also a public health dental provider here in our community and have been for the last almost 4 years. And I am one of only 2 public health providers in our entire community. So we take care of the vast majority of the folks who keep this town going. The people who clean the Airbnbs, the cooks, the construction workers, the librarians, the teachers. We're taking care of all of those people. And I had the distinct privilege of starting a program that provides free dentistry for every child in this community until the age of 20, completely free. As a resident of Fall River Village, I'm a little upset and pretty concerned about the way things are moving. When my family moved into this property, we love everyone involved. We were told that these properties would have to be sold over approximately 5 years. And that in that time, we would have an opportunity to build our own life here, to use the down payment assistance program, to invest in being a member of this community and serving this community. At the rate that this is moving, it's stripping us of an opportunity to build a life here. A little emotional. Skip everything. It just feels like a significant shift from what was communicated to us. It doesn't change our housing plans, it removes our path forward. I am also caring for my mom, who is dying from cancer right now, and I can't relocate away from that. So I'm not asking to stop. I understand where we're going. I'm asking for time, a little bit of time, if we can pause the process and just make sure that every decision that's being made honors the communication to the residents that was given, and a minimum includes protections and timelines and preservation of pathways to ownership that was communicated to us in the first place. It's not about property to us. It's about essential services for our community and whether the people who are providing them can actually be here to do it. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Any other comments? I would entertain a motion to move to executive session. Pete, I'd like you to stay for that, please.
So moved. I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We will be in executive session for probably about 10 minutes.
Sorry.
We're up and running. You're good.
Right. Okay. I'd like to call the meeting of the Estes Park Housing Authority back to order out of executive session. Welcome, Mr. Cohen. Nice to see you here. The purpose of this particular meeting is to look at an unsolicited offer that we have had for the 24 units in Skyview Event Center at Upper Stanley Village. Not Upper Stanley, Upper Fall River Village. I would like to have our Director of Development talk about where we are as a housing authority in relationship to our master plan of development for this particular piece of property. Pete, turn it over to you.
So where we are in the process right now is working through a subdivision and amended PUD with the town of Estes for the property. The plan, since before we purchased the property, was to sell off the higher value townhomes on the upper parcel because the purchase price of the property was too expensive for us to service the debt based on the rental rates that we are charging for the workforce at the lower and the workforce at the upper. Ultimately, if we don't sell any units, the project will not be able to pay the debt, and either 60 funds and the regulatory short-term linkage fee from the city will need to, in perpetuity, go towards that project to service the debt because the annual debt payment is more than the operation from income. And we knew that going in. So in order to make the project be self-sufficient, it is required to sell the higher value townhomes in the upper units. So as we've gone through that process, we initially received a broker opinion of value prior to purchasing the property. And I'm in the process of, or have been in the process of getting updates. So I've received 2 recent broker opinion of values for the last couple of weeks that look at the upper parcel and looking at each thing individually. So it looks at the various townhomes, it looks at the value of Skyview, as well as the value of the 8-unit property that is 1 bedrooms. And so where we are in the process right now is to really refine the broker opinion of value. I've had a tour set up actually later today with one of the brokers to walk the site just to make sure they can get eyes on and hone in their assumptions a little bit more. And what we're looking at is, in my view, 2 options of either trying to sell the property over a longer period of time individually, and doing so would add additional carry costs because we're paying down the debt in a slower pace. Therefore, the interest year over year is a bit higher compared to if we just sold 14 units and were able to take a big chunk out of the debt initially. So there are financial implications of that carrying cost of slower sales over a few years. When it comes to the subdivision process, we're a bit behind where we initially wanted to be in the process. I think a good part of that is because of Ordinance 1125 and how that applies to PUDs. So that's something that we're working through with the town as well. I think there could be a possibility of subdividing without amending the PUD, but we are expecting comments back from the town of our second submittal of that subdivision to PUD later this week. So I will have a little bit better insight on the town approach and what they're thinking with that interplay of the amended PUD and the subdivision.
Thank you. And it's my understanding all of this work that you've been talking about was accomplished prior to the letter of interest being received by the housing authority.
Yeah, the broker opinion and everything had been in process prior to receiving that request.
So we were moving ahead with our own plan of doing what we need to be doing to alter the legal descriptions and the zoning and the paying down the debt.
Yeah, and I received another unsolicited interest email yesterday as well to purchase the property. So there is interest in the property from a number of individuals.
Me too.
Yeah.
So I'm here.
Okay,
Choose, Chairman.
let us get through our process.
Pete, so our plan is penciled in. This is on 14 units up top. The offer applies to 24 units plus Skyview. Is that right? Generally? Okay.
On our timeline, how behind are we on that?
We were hoping to be able to put units on the market when the spring sales season starts up. So now,
So months? I mean,
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
going to be a few months behind,
Yeah.
but not a year, 2 years.
hopefully it really depends on the town's view of the amended PUD, how that applies to ordinance 1125. And I believe because under the current PUD, the uses that we're currently doing and what we're intending to do are already allowed. So in my view, I really don't see why we need an amended PUD anyways. We should just be able to subdivide. We went to go the amended PUD route in part because the town planning department thought it would be easier and cleaner to do this way long term. However, now with 1125 on the books, that in my view is no longer easier or cleaner because we don't know how the town board is going to view that for a amended PUD. So there's just a lot of gray area with that PUD aspect that wasn't on the books when we first purchased the property.
I would like to point out that selling off partial units of a subdivision is not something new to the housing authority. When we purchased the units, the senior housing units out on Highway 7, half of those units were maintained as senior housing for low income 55 and above. And the other half we sold off, we rehabilitated and added and then sold those off in order to help pay down the debt that for money that we had borrowed from the town of Estes Park. Now, that being said, I'd like to get your opinion on this letter of interest. What do you feeling here? Jim?
I have another question. And then, probably sure I don't know. But is there still the possibility that childcare is going to go into that side unit? Not at the sky view, I understand, but the side unit that was what, 3 and 1 or 4 and 1? Still in the works?
Yes, the possibility still exists for an in-home childcare provider
Right.
to work out of the
And-
four-bedroom unit, which is attached to the 1-bedroom unit. So we have kept that off the market for that use.
Right. And the reason for that was it was easier to renovate or refurbish or change that facility to meet the regulatory requirements that I remember with
As compared to,
spacing and bathrooms and changing tables and security and whatever, as opposed to spending far more money to do Skyview.
there were a lot of factors involved that, as you described, is one. The other being that we thought there was a match in the size and potential use of that facility, and the associated regulatory environment that would allow more easily convertible space, because not much has to be done
Okay.
to convert that to a use that the community needs. So yes, is the short
Right.
answer.
Okay. Thank you.
There's also been some comments that have been made in the local community about using Skyview for 4 employees. Scott, would you like to address that issue, please?
I certainly can. So we went into the purchase of the entire 89 units at Fall River Village, both upper and lower, with really an unknown end game, so to speak, for how Skyview would be utilized. While there were conversations during the process, most of our conversation, at least my conversation directed to this body in the decision-making process, was aimed at, if we believe this is the right solution for housing, let's not let that building be a distraction if we believe the housing matches a need and we can pull it off financially. So we did that. We believed we had a solution and a business plan for the entire property that matched the community's need. And we believed we had a path forward to complete the purchase and a subsequent sale to buy down the debt. During and after our completed purchase of the asset, we determined not only have we outgrown our current space, but it makes a lot of financial sense for us to pay any associated rent to pay down debt on something that we own rather than paying rent to a landlord. And as an organization, we have vastly outgrown our current space, which can only fit 4 people in it. But the Skyview Event Center is being structured to serve as an office space for right off the bat, 10 employees, but with the capacity to house 14 to 18 employees total, along with centralized storage for maintenance, our inventory of maintenance related items. So we are bringing a more centralized sort of corporate structure to our office environment, which is very much needed. So that's how we'll look to use the Skyview Event Center in the near to short term.
Thank you for your clarification.
Mhm.
Any additional comments about the letter of intent? What's your feeling in relationship to our mission versus buying down debt and selling off all 24 units in Skyview Event Center? I tend to favor our mission personally and have for as long as I've been on the board prior to that. And while I know we need to reduce our debt to a certain extent to make it operational, I feel very strongly about the mission. That's been my life, and that's how I feel.
So the current offer would not be ideal, considering the promises that we made to the residents that live in that upper level, that we gave them a projected plan, and we're kind of like detouring off that. We're selling more units than we intended to sell. I think putting an event center right next to our residents is not ideal. Having a wedding event center in the center of the project, not great for the people who live there. Yeah, so I don't think it's an ideal situation.
Jim?
Stacy's, as you all know, far more diplomatic than I am. I think it'd be ridiculous to subject the lower units to the party facility right above the hillside. I think it's 24 individuals, couples, families, other arrangements that have the opportunity right now to enjoy safe, secure, well-maintained, convenient housing. I wholeheartedly stand behind our initial plan and our initial thought. I know that Grand Heritage and Mr. Cullen did us a big favor on the pricing of this to help us make this one, help us bring dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens safe, secure housing units with need. And we cover the waterfront from both lower income to, there's a potato definition over here that is not workforce type housing or low income housing, but I mean, these units, was a godsend to us, it's been a godsend to the community. And one hand, I want to say too little too late. It's just, I think our mission drives us in the direction of keeping this housing. I think economically, it makes terrific and perfect sense to take advantage of the office facility being moved over there instead of pouring money into a hole in the ground. And if we can pull off childcare in the midst of this, it's just a grand slam. And so I'm not in favor of it at all.
Julia, anything?
I agree. Everything they said is what I agree with.
Ruth?
So, I would like to really see our community members, have the opportunity to own their own houses. I think this is a desire of many workforce people that they want to be able to stay here long-term, raise their children, raise their families. It is so hard for them to keep renting, right? At some point, I mean, this is a dream for opportunities, right? I stand behind our mission, and I'm gonna read it. It says, our mission is to create and facilitate housing opportunities and service for low and moderate income individuals to ensure a balanced and sustainable community. Our community is set of housing. We struggle with that. And so in our organization is going to our staff space to be able to work and serve the community. And so therefore, I'm not.
Thank you. Marty, anything?
I agree with everything Jim said. But we have, using Sky for our benefit versus paying for greater makes sense.
I would entertain a motion to maintain our original development plan as a housing authority project.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion and a second.
Yeah.
Do I have any further discussion? Are there any public comments?
Can I get clarity on the motion on the second first? Who did what?
I'll make the motion and then Marty, you can.
Thank you.
Vice versa, it doesn't make any difference. We're on the same wavelength.
Any public comments about the motion?
I think I've heard it silenced by so much common sense.
Coming from someone with a chocolate factory, that,
So can we get back to Friday?
Yes. Give you one favor for, I'll be silent. I think that is an extraordinary, irreplaceable asset to the floor of your downtown strategy.
I have a motion and a second. I've had public comments and board comments.
None of the motion. Any more discussion on the motion?
Any more discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Is there any additional business?
Do you mind if I make a couple comments?
Go right ahead as the executive director. As someone who's had to put up with the details of all of this stuff. One more comment.
You
before
go for it.
I would like you to thank Mr. Peterbaugh for his offer
Certainly.
and let him know the outcome of this decision, of this particular board meeting.
I will do. You all know me well enough at this point that I wear my heart on my sleeve, so I'm gonna be unable to stay unemotional here. We heard public comment before we started today about the importance of the housing that we provide, and specifically the importance that this particular property has provided and will continue to provide this community for some time. I want to thank you for considering the LOI that we received and sticking behind not only our business plan as we originally envisioned under the purchase of this property, but most importantly, our mission. Our community thanks you for that work. It's something we work towards every day, and it's important. You see the impact that it has. Ultimately, the financial realities still exist. We still are in a position to continue with our original business plan, which requires the sale of townhome units up top. Unless we can find some magic bullet that allows financing to work for either the retaining them as a rental or ultimately selling them and or selling them in an attainable fashion as well. But I just want to reiterate, thank you for this board's continued support to the end, to our mission. It means a lot to the staff as a whole and of course to our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Yep.
Is there anything else? Hearing nothing further?
Public comment on sure. My board, which is the Colorado Educational Cultural Facilities Agency and SPACE, the Standing Partnership for Arts, Culture, and Education, voted last week to expand our involvement in Estes Park by willing to consider financing for arts education, arts facilities, and including in that now, we have the ability to talk about employee housing. We will find a solution along the way that keeps that housing downtown Cleve Street and other places to make affordable housing in a downtown environment where it belongs, where people can walk to work. And so, and it's open public records, to the board, based on some meetings we had here in Estes Park. We are going to expand our mission into these types of things and have the ability to issue tax-free bonds. We find a solution with this group that keeps that as downtown housing, because you're not going to be able to find 24 nicer units, better units for that price, no matter what the sale price. The cost of construction is going through the roof. This is one you want to hold on to. It's never going to get cheaper.
Thank you, John.
Thank you very much. Is there anything else? We are adjourned. Thank you all for your participation.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's